we're told a lot of different things that we need in the course of life in a first world country like America, or what people would consider a first world country. Sometimes you'll hear people say, in reference to what they consider a third world country, something like hungry kids in Africa. But the other side of that is, you could look at a place where you think that they don't have much by your perspective, and they could be in a community, in a circle, singing songs, forming that community, and there's not as much of the bureaucracy, the hierarchy that you would see in what that person would also perceive as a first world country. So it really depends on how you're defining success, how you're defining life, and how you're defining what we should be doing with our day. Here in America, what people consider a first world country, you look at some of these things that we're told that we need, but then when you really think about the bills and the mental, just having to think about it on a day-to-day basis, do we really need them? So these things that kind of strap us down into a contract or a debt. So you have the college debt, turn 18, graduate high school, go to college, and you're already in the negative of net worth. And then if you get married, it's a legal contract that binds you to that person. If you're paying rent or mortgage, then it's a debt of somewhere to live. And then it just keeps going on from there. The commercial that says, oh, this guy's driving a Mercedes, what are you driving, kind of thing. So now you have this car payment. You have all these electronics, your phone bill, the internet service, TV provider, gas and electric, utilities. But if you go camping or you are on vacation, you could go out into the woods and start a fire and cook things yourself, or grow food in the soil and eat food that way. So all the extra things that we think we need, they aren't necessary, because plenty of people get by without it. It's kind of like with money as well. Someone that makes $20,000 a year, most people would say, oh, that's the poverty level. But it's only the poverty level depending on what you're spending your money on. Yeah, you're not going to go out to eat every day, but yeah, when you're adding like the mortgage and the college debt, the marriage contract, the car payments, the things that you spend your money on day to day, yeah, you could say 20 grand is poverty level, but in terms of food and survival and shelter, getting out of the elements, you can do a lot with 20 grand. A lot of people, they're just used to their birth circumstance as well, so nobody ever wants to go down. Everybody's always trying to go up, so nobody ever wants to feel like they've gone down from whatever their level is, according to them. So everyone's trying to go up. So people that have never struggled in a certain sense aren't going to understand how easy it would be to get by if you just changed your mentality on it. Because look at how many homeless people are able to do it day after day. Yes, it's not ideal to live like that, but if a homeless person can make it work and survive day after day with basically nothing, then you could do a lot with 20 grand a year if you started a little bit better than homeless on the spectrum of that. But someone who is never homeless, they don't understand it because they've never experienced it, so they wouldn't know that 20 grand is a lot. Because from their perspective, maybe they were born in a middle-class household, both parents working, both making 40 grand, so they're used to a family that's bringing in 80 grand each year. So to say 20, by their level of comfort and the lifestyle they like to live, they think it's poverty level, because that's just what they're used to. That's just their daily routine. It's like me being born in San Diego, and my daily routine growing up would be the ocean and perfect weather all year. America's finest city. There's no shoveling snow off the driveway. We could go to the beach in December and January. So I just don't get things about living in New York that someone would if they lived in New York. Same thing with them living there and then coming here. It's a perspective difference. So all these things that we're kind of told that we need, it really just it's according to you on how much you want to take on. Because even in high school too, they're preparing you for college, preparing you for a job. If the main point of a job is to have somewhere to live, what if you were born in a situation where the house is already paid off because both parents are working, or most of the mortgage is paid off, or whatever the case may be? if one generation worked to establish something, so somewhere to live, why would the next generation just have to keep that cycle of just thinking they have to do that? So like the person that is born in a household where it's already paid off, the parents or the grandparents did it, the kid is in a different situation where maybe they can focus more on their art or their business or their side hustle, their craft, because the family's already secured somewhere to live. So they don't need the college debt in the way that some sort of propaganda might tell them so, or a high school counselor about, oh, well, what are you going to do without a degree? Like, it's hard out there. You know, they just say things without really thinking of each person's individual circumstance, because not everybody needs what the other person needs. Everybody starts with different things, different circumstances, situations at home, different parts of the world that shape their current viewpoints and just how they're going to operate. So that's one thing just with school in general that really doesn't teach, because they kind of think of it as like a universal slate where everything is like, oh, well, the harder you study, the better you do. The A is better than the B is better than the C. But not really. You go to a restaurant, who cares what grades the person got? They want the person that cooks food well. If you're in a plane, you want the guy that knows how to fly it, not the guy that's never taken pilot lessons. So the whole like, oh, well, it's a fair world and just work harder, study harder. There's just different things going on than that. What about securing the food source? What about securing somewhere to live? Do you really need the Mercedes when you have a paid off Ford? Me, for example, my first car when I was 16, my family got me a 2002 Ford Taurus, and I still have it to this day. So I'm 27 now. I've had the car for 11 years, and it runs. And yeah, here and there it has problems. I put some money into it, but it runs. It gets from A to B. And do I need to go and get another car payment just to say that I have a nicer car or whatever? There's a small dent in the side of my Ford Taurus. I'm at the beach every day, so the seagulls poop on it all the time. I don't care. It drives me to where I need to go, so I can do what I want to do. It facilitates what I need to do. What's the difference if you're already getting where you need to go? Who cares about how it's perceived or whatever? And if you do find yourself in a place in life where you're making a bunch of money and you want to go get that Mercedes just because you want to, that's on you. But I'm saying the constant pressure of things we think we need that we don't really need. People ask all the time too, what's your dream car? Like, if you had $500,000, what's your dream car that you'd get? And I'd say if I had that amount of money, I would put that in the bank and invest it, or just be chill for a bit and know that I have food and somewhere to live for a while and not have to be so rushed. Because that's just how I would think. That's just where my mind would go with that question. So yeah, you just think of all the things that add up. Starting early from school, it's the reinforced competition. It's this person got an A, this person got a C, so you did worse at something. So it's that reinforced competition. Then it's the college debt where you're starting in a negative net worth before you've even started the world. You're already starting behind, and you don't even know anything about yourself yet. You're 18. You could go into college and pick a major by end of sophomore year. You're like 20 years old, so you solidify your major, and then 5 years later you're 25. You're a more adult, grown person, and so it's just different. It's like, oh, I went and declared psychology at age 20, but I'm 25-year-old now, and I want to go into jewelry making, or whatever the case may be. Because you're older and things change and you learn more and you discover more about the world and unlearn certain things, relearn certain things, find where you fit in, where you think you fit in, what you like to do, what you're good at, what you're not good at. So those things are a lifelong process. So you've already gone into debt. You picked your major at 20, the stuff that could change, and then there's the relationship stuff that's already difficult, and now you've added, if you get married, this legal contract where there's this third-party entity with the government in your love life. And so now it's like, if things get rocky, like who gets the house, who gets the kids, who gets the dog, the divorce lawyer, and all of that. And so people go into these contracts, starting from the college debt and then the marriage, and then they take out a mortgage. When early in the video I mentioned how when people think of countries like first world country, third world country, they think because we're holding phones and we can pave cement and there's like a TV in the house, a running faucet, they say first world country. And if someone's living in a hut with food growing outside in the dirt, then that's third world. But again, too, like I was saying with the people thinking 20,000 a year is poverty level, but if you're just growing food in the soil and just a basic tent in a park, then 20,000 is a lot of money. Now, of course, in most places, you're not going to be able to take your tent and just live in a park. There's overnight camping laws and regulations where people can't just go and sleep wherever. But that's the point, though, about the 20 grand people thinking that it's poverty level. It's really not. It's just what you're spending it on. If you like Nikes, if you like Jordans, that's fine. If you have the money to spend whatever you want to spend on, that's your prerogative to do so. So if you're a shoe person, you earned your money through work and you just want to collect shoes, you're into the shoe game, the kick game, and you got like 20 pairs of Jordans at home that you don't even touch or you used once, you just keep it up, that's fine. But do you need that? You could have one pair of flip-flops, one pair of shoes, and you're good to go. It just your perception on what's been told to you and what you think you need or what you think other people are doing. So it's all of that added up. It's the college debt before you're even in your 20s. You're 18 and you're already starting in the negative because other people from high school, like counselors and society, billboards, media, family, peers, if everyone else is doing it, then oh well, then am I going to go to community college and is that lesser than a Harvard? But those things that just like get into your mind about hierarchy and what you're doing. So you take on the college debt, then like I said with the marriage contract, now you got the government involved in your love life, and then the mortgage and the rent where you could have lived fine in that hut with the food growing in the dirt. You could have lived fine in a tent in a park. Obviously you can't do that, but you could do it. You could survive. There's homeless people that make it work, so you could do it. But instead, you take this mortgage or this rent, so now you're even more in debt, and you have to go to work in order to pay that mortgage because you just took out a mortgage and you got the college debt. So you got to go to work, and in order to keep up the relationship and the status that your wife or husband expected going into it, you got to keep up that level. So now you're on the wheel for that, trying to keep up what the situation was when you both met, and then you're at the mercy of, well, does this company need to make budget cuts, and if they fire people or lay people off, that's going to affect their personal relationships because they went into the marriage or whatever where the guy was making 100 grand, so she didn't have to work, she's taking care of the kids or whatever, and then some higher up boss or manager or whatever, owner, just says, oh, I could just make more money through my business here, so they cut you, but you went into that relationship making 100 grand, and so now you're at the mercy of that boss keeping you for your relationship to be functional and healthy and not have stress, and it just always adds up. And then you're sitting at home after the TV subscription you just paid for, on the couch that you paid for, that might have been an expensive couch that you didn't really need, and then a commercial comes on like, oh, look at this car, look at how cool this guy looks with the good looking guy with the watch and the nice shirt, he's driving that, and then he pulls up to the scene, and then all the girls are looking at him because he's the one with the car, and then the guy at home is like, wow, like, I'm driving a Ford, and then that's something else you think you need, and then two neighbors are talking, one of them's like, hey, I think Jim's bushes have been growing over into my yard, and gets all pissed off. The neighbors are talking. The other guy says, yeah, have you seen Phil's lawn? Looks like crap. And they're just like, and then so Phil, like, he looks at everybody else's lawn. His is dying because maybe he's a minimum wage worker and he's working 2 jobs and he has more people to take care of, more dependents, and so he's always tired, and so just the lawn doesn't get taken care of, and he comes home tired and falls asleep in the living room chair. So another neighbor is talking about it like, oh, look, he doesn't even keep up his lawn. And so it gets back to Phil, and now he goes to Home Depot, gets new sod, plants it just to maintain grass that doesn't produce food, doesn't produce fruit, doesn't produce vegetables, but just to maintain more money with more water, more fertilizer, whatever, to maintain the other image of the neighbors, to keep up with the Joneses. And so it's all of that. It's the bills, utilities, even too, a water bill. And when you're in a house paying rent or mortgage, it's like there's been running rivers and lakes and that stuff's just a part of the world since the beginning of time. So now it's just like this extra bill to have water come to your house, electricity. You could go outside and start fires and keep a fire going and cook things and live off the land. You can live plant-based diet. We could not pollute the world. We could not contaminate water sources. We could just make it easy. But it's those things that add up. It's you already have 7 shirts, 1 for each day, and you could do laundry at the end of the week and have 1 shirt for each day. But then someone has a closet of 30 shirts, and then they think, oh, well, 20,000 is poverty level, or I'm not going to make enough, or I'm not going to make enough sales if I start this business, or I need to cover this expense, or but it's expenses you gave yourself, really. It's just things that were told to you, or decisions you made based off information you thought would lead to a different direction, like the college debt. Whereas some people that needed the college route, it was fine, but some people could have looked back and said, wow, that could have been the startup money for my business. That could have been savings to have a cushion for a bit. So just be careful and prioritize what you really need to get the most fulfillment and happiness and freedom out of your life.